What the heck are you doing, you son of...
Mommy, look! I finally understood my superpower! I can defy gravity and fly!
Get off immediately until my slippers defy gravity and start flying towards you.
I'm good, Mommy!
Order, order. Who do we have here today? Gravity. Requiring compensation for being accused of crimes that it didn't commit?
Your Honor, this is just one of the few reasons why today's defendant, Gravity, is being put on trial. And still, the defense demands compensation for the accusations that had been put on it before.
Yes, Your Honor. My defendant had been pointed out for multiple charges where it wasn't guilty. One of the initial accusations was made by a Greek philosopher named Aristotle. He claimed that objects fall at speeds proportional to their weight. From that, we can assume gravity was accused of being attracted to heavier objects more than the lighter ones. This is like blaming my defendant for weight discrimination, where the real criminal was air resistance.
Whoa, not so fast. First of all, Aristotle didn't directly claim for gravity. Second, gravity's name was later cleared by Italian physicist Galileo Galilei, who claimed that objects fall at the same speed and that the air resistance is the real criminal. Your Honor, I'd like to bring Mr. Galileo himself to the court.
Proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Previously, we used to believe that heavier objects fall faster, but later I realized that this is not true. Imagine, for example, two stones of different weights, one heavier and one lighter. Let's say the heavier one falls at the speed of 8 and the lighter one at 4. According to Aristotelian belief, the heavier one should fall faster. But if we tie them together, the heavier stone should accelerate the lighter, and the lighter should somehow decelerate the heavier. That way, we should get the speed of around 6 from this system. But overall, it's now heavier than the heavy stone alone, and thus should fall faster. This, Your Honor, doesn't make sense. That way, I came to a conclusion that Aristotelian belief has shortcomings.
And Your Honor, we have the actual footage of the Apollo 15 moon experiment, where the astronaut David Scott dropped a feather and a hammer on the surface of the moon where there is no air resistance. So, gravity's name for being attracted to heavier objects was cleared twice.
All right, but later, my defendant was accused to be a force that pulls objects toward the center of a mass by Sir Isaac Newton. Even though Newton himself was deeply uncomfortable with how objects attract each other instantly through empty space without the mediator in between. And at that time, the idea of gravity being a force was accepted by everyone, but few were concerned about the notion of action at a distance.
But still, this idea explained a lot, from apples falling to the moon orbiting the Earth. And one person did openly challenge this idea after all. His name is Albert Einstein, and he proposed a new explanation for gravity in his general theory of relativity. He claimed that gravity isn't a physical object that fills space and attracts objects toward each other, but as the curvature of the space-time itself, caused by a mass. Your Honor, I would like to invite Mr. Einstein himself to the stand.
Bring Mr. Einstein.
Thank you, Your Honor. While writing a summary of my work on the theory of special relativity, I had the happiest thought experiments of my life. Imagine a crazy man who jumps from the roof of a building. While falling, he wouldn't feel his own weight, experiencing what we call a free fall. Surprisingly, the same happens with astronauts in space. They are too on a free fall. But it doesn't mean that gravity doesn't affect them. It still affects them, but they're just continuously falling towards the center of a mass that's bending space-time around them. We feel the weight when something, such as Earth, pushes us up to resist gravity. But with free fall, this support is gone. That's what we call zero G. Not zero gravity, but zero supporting force.
Hold on a minute. But how don't they fall to the surface of the mass eventually?
Good question, Your Honor. Well, that happens because of their sideways, tangential velocity. While the gravity pulls inward, it moves forward fast enough to orbit. The result is a continuous free fall that keeps missing the surface. That is an orbit. Now, what's important here? They always move forward, and as the space-time itself is curved, they end up circling around the mass.
Well, if that's true, then what happens once the falling object reaches the center of that mass?
Well, if one falls toward an ordinary planet, like Earth, tidal forces are small, and the gravitational pull decreases toward the center. As the mass one is falling into gets smaller and smaller below, but more and more in other directions. And at the center one would end up in free fall again, as now the mass surrounding him isn't bending space-time in just one direction, but in all directions at the same time, canceling each other. But if one falls into a black hole, the extreme tidal forces could stretch and crush him long before he hits any center. But Your Honor, it's a whole new story.
As you can see, gravity was justified and was given its place in the universe after all. But where it's actually guilty is that it causes even the light to bend. As all objects move in a straight path, and this path isn't really straight near massive objects, the light also bends.
Your Honor, it seems like my dear colleague didn't understand that my defendant, gravity, is not an independent agent. Mass and energy determine how space-time curves, and that curvature is what we call gravity. So, Your Honor, gravity isn't guilty for anything. Rather, it's a victim.
Okay, but Your Honor, gravity also appears to be the most arrogant defendant ever. Since the discovery of Einstein, physicists have been trying to quantize gravity, like the search for a hypothetical particle named graviton, but no consistent, experimentally confirmed quantum theory of gravity exists yet. All other forces fit into quantum field theory, but gravity resists being treated the same way.
The court makes the verdict. The case is delayed until the last mystery, the gap between gravity in the macro world and micro world, is filled. The session is over now.